to be talked about. So, knowing that we both have stuff we need to do, let's get right into it. What is the first thing you want to talk about? Is it Hansen or is it Damien?
No, I think we can keep this one strictly Dame. Let's
Okay.
do a summer league recap
Okay.
when you return from your family vacation. Um, I think it'll be time to space it out. Like I think this is the I don't want the Hansen evaluation, thoughts, excitement, where it all lands. I don't want that to get lost, and I
Okay.
think it will get
Yeah,
lost.
the greatest Portland Trailblazer ever coming back
I'll
is
say arguably. I'm gonna say arguably. The old head in the room's gonna say arguably, but yes, obviously you
who do you
sent
have
me.
above? I guess we can start there. Who do you have above? Is it Drex or is it Bill?
First of all, there's no wrong answer. It's any one of the three you want to choose. What criteria you want to go on? Um, I think Bill Walton had the highest peak, clearly being an MVP and a Finals MVP. I think Dame is working towards having the best career. Drexler has him on a lot of numbers. Like I was actually looking at basketball reference for Portland's all-time leaders, and I was like, my God, Drexler's in like the top 10 for every category. Like he's the greatest two-way Blazer of all time, and there's no comparison. He had the best 3-year team run of all time, 90 to 92, averaging what 59 wins a season, 63 most in franchise history, 91 conference champs in 90 and 92, second in MVP voting. So he had the second best Blazer season of all time, and you could arguably it was the best because there was no Michael, quote unquote, Michael Jordan in 77 or
Who was the
78.
GM of the 90s teams? Was it Stu?
They had Stu Inman, Bucky Buckwalter, Jeff Petrie. They had a lot of people in that front office who
Who drafted Terry
I think
Jerome?
it was Stu Inman and Bucky Buckwalter were the Blazers brain trust.
Well,
Fun fact, they
well,
also
we can argue
drafted
that those dudes are better than what Neil O'Shea did for Dame.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think Dame's probably the best offensive Blazer of all time. So it just really depends on what you want in your favorite quote unquote Blazer. For me, it's always going to be Clyde. Nobody's gonna touch him.
That
That's
was
my
that was the dude of your childhood. Like I'm well aware that Allen Iverson was the one of the most inefficient players ever. But like one of the first things I did when I realized that I could do content while watching like highlights and stuff, I did the top 10 Iverson crossovers ever. So like, like
There's
11-year-old you
also
is gonna
the
dictate
cultural
your
impact
oh yeah.
that Iverson had that cannot be understated. So there's whatever criteria you want. Like if there's off the court stuff you want to incorporate into that, sure, that's fine. Like regardless, um, a monumental day, I think, in Blazers lore, in memory, whether you are for or against it, I don't think you can downplay the significance of the moment. Yeah, when you sent me the notification, I usually just get them on my watch, and it's like, oh, from Shams. I'm like, what is this? Joe Schmo signs with the Washington
Yeah,
Wizards on
I happen to give you some meaningless ones thrown in with the important ones. But like,
and
holy
I
shit, Ryan Rollins the free agent? I gotta show Dustin that.
this was almost like the Luca trade. I'm like, I had to double, triple check because I'm like, this makes no sense. And it still doesn't make any sense to me. And we can get into that. First of all, like, if you're happy about the news, that's awesome. Like, I am happy that other people are happy. I think more people need to uh relish in other people's happiness. I think that is awesome that it is been such a positive moment for people who are excited about the return. And I don't want any what I'm about to say to detract from that. Like for example, like Clips just came out with, to me, one of the best albums I've ever heard. My friend who loves hip hop doesn't really mess with it. He likes the old Clips. That's fine. I listened to a pop, all of the reviews, and some gave it like great scores, but slightly less than I would, and it didn't detract from my appreciation of the music, right? So like just because we have disagreeing opinions on the return, it should not detract from your excitement, your enthusiasm. This is just trying to hear all sides of the story. But for the Blazers and Damian Lillard, it is very interesting timing. I have always been a proponent of bringing Lillard back, maybe on like a victory lap,
Mhm.
or 2 years left on his career after the Bucks deal expired. That timing felt right. You would know where you're at as a team. The Blazers really found this identity post Damian Lillard. Pre Dame, it was, or I would say, when it was Dame, it was put on the Superman cape. Let's play ISO ball. We're going to do a lot of pick and roll. We're going to score, 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 score some more, but we're going to be pretty deficient on defense,
Defensively. Yeah.
and we might take some inefficient shots on offense, a little bit too far out from three.
Anthony kept
Now
that tradition going, bro. You got to admit, Anthony kept that tradition going.
he didn't have, to be fair, he did not cook up any, 50 pieces like Dame was doing it. But the Blazers found success going in the complete opposite direction, right? They played more when they were winning, they were sharing the basketball. They were playing
Defensive.
connective team
Mhm.
defense. They had a lot of size, they had a lot of length, they had depth. Different, it was a different person giving it to you every night, right?
Mhm.
One night it was Scoot blows up against the Brooklyn Nets, then it's Shaden having career high nights, Denny was going off on some teams, you had Tumani playing lockdown defense. I mean, it was just a different person was doing something different every night. And for this reunion to be magical, Damian Lillard has to understand that it's not the Damian Lillard show. It can't be. For this to be successful, he cannot be the man all the time. On nights, absolutely. But for this to be a success, has to be a group effort where he has to put in more emphasis on defense and trust that his teammates can carry more of the load on offense, right? You can't be getting hunted like he was previously hunted. Like the team is now structurally sound defensively, and that's you can't have weak links on defense. We saw that in the finals. Nobody out there was a weak link on defense. It was five amazing two-way players versus five amazing two-way players. And obviously, there's going to be a time where you need Dame to put the team on his shoulders and say, hey, go get us this victory. But I don't need Dame playing 35 minutes a night, taking 20 shots a night, trying to do everything. Like for this to work, he can still be the leader of the team, but he has to understand that he's no longer a top 10 player in this league. Even if he comes back from the Achilles,
Yeah,
he's
but
not
yeah,
going to be.
that's what you're mentioning him carrying and doing all that, but he's not going to play for a year. And then the year two, is he really going to trust his body to be able to perform at a level where that he, that is worth it to him to try and play hard? Like I get that in the future, this might be an issue if he recovers from the injury multiple years, but I'm thinking that we're going to see we're not seeing Dame in year one. And I don't think we're going to see a good version of Dame in year two. There's going to be the sporadic Dame hits 35 on 14 shots, but I don't know if a 36-year-old Damian Lillard is going to be able to cook at the rate. And then that gives me onto how is Dame and Scoot's relationship currently? Because Scoot was the reason that he was tradable in a decade plus where he wasn't tradable. Are those two good personally? I'm glad that he's back, but that's like the main thing for me is if this is going to be assistant coach slash mentor Dame, how is he going to mentor the mentee that might have got him to Milwaukee? You know what I mean?
I want to back up quickly though. You obviously he shouldn't play year one, and you don't think he'll be ready to go really year two. Then my question for you is, was this even worth it? Like if you sign him to a 3-year deal, yes, he's got a player option for year three, no trade clause. Why, if you're the Blazers, they have to believe they're getting something out of him in year two, because otherwise it's just you're paying him a important
Bit of contract, yeah.
Made of contract, and that is an asset. The mid-level exception is a major asset the Blazers could use in trade, no longer anymore, to upgrade the roster. So if you're saying you don't, is it worth it to you then? If you don't believe he's going to be able to play in year two or at a decent level in year
I
two?
I personally, well, here's kind of how I think of it. It's gonna give people that are casuals a reason to talk about the team. I don't think that he's going to be good in I don't think he's going to play Damian Lillard style basketball in year two. So to answer your question, it's worth it for the fan base, but I don't think it's worth it for basketball reasons because unless he is just going to be a mentor that for like, and we have Drew Holiday to be a mentor too. So like, what like it seems like we have too many veteran point guards. And then when if and when Dame gets healthy, what are we gonna do with Drew Holiday, who also is getting 30 plus $1 million? Like it's $32 million. And then with Dame, who is a franchise icon, who's obviously gonna get, all of the praise and fanfare and love. Like, what does that do for not only Drew, not only Dame, but Scoot Henderson, who I don't know. Like when I watched Scoot Henderson at G League Ignite, I saw the best point guard prospect I've ever seen, minus Darren Peterson, who looks like Kobe Bryant. The best point guard prospect I've ever watched as like somebody that's looking at it in a technical aspect. We're taking him and now we're giving him another Blazers legend to deal with, or not deal with, but like try and work as a team together when he is arguably a top three. I like I'm happy that Dame's back because of the story, but it just makes me feel sorry for Scoot because he had this. Drew is not a point guard. He'll never be a point guard, especially at age 35. This is Scoot's team. Now it is demonstrably not his team because the franchise icon is there. Now he's not playing, but you know who's going to get those in, who's going to be talking to the media talking about the improvement of the team. It isn't going to be Scoot. Dame's going to be there and all of that stuff. So I don't think he's going to be the Dame that you and I remember and watched and covered for all these years because that is a devastatingly bad injury.
Absolutely, but we have seen players such as Kevin Durant come back and perform at a high level, right? Klay Thompson has performed at a solid level after back-to-back Achilles
Devastating ones.
or devastating. The knee, then the Achilles, or the
Yeah.
Achilles, then the knee. Um,
But
or it
those
was
dudes
vice
have the
versa.
benefit of being 6'6" and 7 foot. So I don't know
Absolutely.
how
All I
the
wanted to
the
know was
small dude. I don't know about small guard because you need that level of explosion to
he
even be
needs
on
the
the floor,
burst.
especially when you're 6'3". So like, is Dame gonna? I don't think Dame will have the burst. And
He
Dame
won't.
didn't win hard, like he won easy, but it was because he had a burst. What's going to happen when he doesn't have that burst? Is he just going to be cool with corner sitting and hitting like what slightly contested threes, or does he want the ball in his hands? There's so many questions that don't need to
That's
be answered.
that's the other question is when they traded CJ and the narrative tried to flip the oh yeah, he and Ant can play together because both can play off the ball. No, Dame cannot play off the ball.
No,
He's gonna have to learn to play off the ball because
just like
that
Anthony
burst
in Boston.
if he stays in Boston. Yeah. It's interesting. Dame is definitely gonna have to change the way he plays in Portland. You talked about salaries, you talked about Drew, you talked about Scoot. This leads into the question we got from Instagram, from one of my favorite folks, uh, Jesse. I believe Peyton PDX is his handle, but longtime listener. If you need flowers, go to Giffords. They will get you right. I usually get them whenever I'm getting flowers for Olga. They're beautiful. And Jesse might even be your delivery driver for your order. So this is Jesse's question. Dispassionately speaking, what does this mean for team building with 50 plus million committed per season over the next 3 years to 37 or to 35 to 37-year-old point guards. Obviously, Dame and Drew are both 35. They're going to be 36 and 37 as their contracts wind down. We've discussed this already, but I think this is most it's awkward, very awkward, I think right now.
So so this is 33% of our if we were just doing salary cap. This is
Yeah,
no aprons, none of that. The salary cap is 155, right? Or
it's
up
about
thereabout.
30%. It's
So
165, I think.
so 35 to 37-year-old men are 30%. And if you add Jeremy Grant, it's probably 40%.
Damn near half. Damn near half.
So team building is going to be fucking difficult. Especially like if I don't think I don't think people understand how little Drew's going to touch the ball on offense. Like he's never been a high usage rate dude. Never ever ever. The Anthony Davis, like Giannis, all of these amazing stars around him, he was never a high usage rate guy. I don't know how if he ever loses a step defensively, what Drew Holiday is going to be. And then Damian Lillard off of an Achilles at age 36. If you were playing 2K and you were trying to rebuild the Blazers, and I know you have difficulty doing this, would you trade one or both of these legend guards, or would you keep them if you were in charge?
So I didn't make the Drew Holiday trade, right? I I have to live with that trade.
Yeah.
Um, I think the Blazers pre this announcement made a lot more sense than they do this announcement. Obviously, they're not going to trade Dame because of the no trade
No
clause, and
trade
that,
cause I
that
can't.
and that would be baked into the 2K as well. Um, I think Joe Cronin kind of backed himself into a corner a little bit.
Well, he did a great job of taking multiple years to unback himself out. So the
I mean, he got bailed out by DeAndre
mhm.
Ayton's representatives. You basically say, sayonara, DeAndre. But as we've seen in the reports, they are not able to move Jeremy Grant. They waited a year too late to do so. Um, and again, this is why I was such a big proponent of trading Dame in the first place because they needed to do it. They needed to strike while the iron was still simmering, and obviously that benefited Portland. The roster is now in a better position for him to come back. But now you've got Drew Holiday. Yes, he's going to play an integral part this season, but there is no way
Age
on this
37, Drew's locking up.
there
Amp,
no
amp.
no no, there's just no way on this green earth right now that going into the fall of 2026 for the 26-27 season that you can have Scoot Henderson, Drew Holiday, and Damian Lillard on the same roster. It's just not feasible one bit. Whether you look at it from a relationship standpoint, whether you look at it from a usage standpoint, and especially when you look at it from a financial standpoint, because Scoot Henderson is going to be wanting his extension soon too.
So
And
it's Tumani and Shaden this year need to get paid, right?
or they have to they take a bit of a risk into Monty becoming an unrestricted free
Because of
agent.
the second round Gilbert Arenas stuff.
Yeah, and
Okay.
then Shaden, they still have some time, but
Did they have the
if
fifth year
if
on
Shaden has a great year, they're gonna have to pay him more.
more
So
exactly? The Cincinnati Bengals issues, right? But so next year when Dame is healthy-ish, when Drew's slightly less healthy than he is right now, just guessing because if he plays another year on the legs, and then Scoot's gonna need to get paid eventually, unless we're saying screw the Bulls pick, we need to do something. But everybody young is about to get paid in the next contract. So how is that like the aprons we're going to get dominated by the second apron once Shaden, Tumani, and then Scoot get paid, and then we don't even know what Donovan Clingan, then Hanson, then Denny's going to need to either leave or something like that. So it just puts like this is going to be a long line of dominoes that if we don't do this shit perfectly, we're gonna be second aproned like soldiers and have to deal with all of these repercussions for having X number of dollars on the court when those dollars, 40% of them are dudes that are going to be thinking about ARP pretty damn soon, right? Like again, like the story is wonderful and brilliant and great, but the reality of those old dudes on the contract that are only going to get more money as the years pass by, and then our young guys are going to not be young rookie contract dudes is horrifyingly frightening. So in the
Yeah.
2K aspect, I love Drew Holiday. I have to trade him.
Yeah. It just you have to rely on Matisse
And
Thybulle.
isn't
You have
isn't
to rely on Scoot taking the leap. I want
and if
to
we trade Drew for nothing, aren't we still going to be in financials? It's going to be scary financially when all of our young guys need to get paid.
I think we'll be all right as long as they let Matisse, Robert. They probably really need to decline the qualifying offer to Chris Murray. You're going to get 20 million off of Aiton's deal this season as well. So they should be okay, but they are going
And
to
then
have
in
to.
2 years, Jeremy, right?
Jeremy, Dame, Drew all expire at the same time.
That's fucking scary. That's really fucking scary. I like the story's great. Like it could be a Disney movie. But when we're talking about realism with absolutely devastating financial problems, it's scary as hell.
Can I say something controversial?
What?
And I'm not meaning it to be controversial. I think Dame's a little selfish.
Yeah,
And the thing that shook me the most when you sent me that text, I'm like,
no
why
trade.
are we paying him $14 million a year?
Oh,
Why? There's no Joe Cronin, all he had to do was say, Dame, you want to come home. I know you want to come home. Take the minimum. You're getting your full
money
max
from the
level
books. Yeah,
contract.
for
You're
seven
getting
years.
your full money. This is not a buyout situation where you're taking anything less. You are essentially getting to double dip, which I firmly do not think should be allowed.
He's getting the
Uh,
Shohei deal. Like it's deferred payments for X amount of years.
I no, I think he gets his money on time from the Bucks. That's just their cap
Oh,
gets a different structure for it. But no,
manipulated
he's
it from the cap.
yeah,
Okay.
he gets his game checks regardless. So this is a person who is very wealthy. This is not like comparing the average worker. Please don't come at me in the comments saying, well, you wouldn't turn down any money. This is we are talking about two completely different lives and lives lived. Damien is a very generationally wealthy man for multiple generations, has that lifetime Adidas money. He is doing just fine. It just comes off a little selfish to me because the mid-level exception was another avenue the Blazers could have used via trade to go out and find a player that fits. Maybe it was mid-season, early season, whatever. A team's up against the tax. You can be that lifeline for
Hmm.
them.
And get a first round pick while at it.
Exactly. And it reminds me a lot of what LeBron's talking about in Los Angeles. He wants to opt into his $52 million contract. He could have chose any destination he wanted to as long as he opted out. He is a billionaire. He really doesn't need to play for anything right now. He could take a veterans minimum and not even miss it. But yet he complains, well, why aren't we doing this? Well, it's because your contract, ties our hands behind our
40%
back.
of the 40%
Yeah,
of the salary cap.
it's so that's my biggest gripe, honestly, about this is like you're paying him $14 million to be a coach next year, and then he's going to take a little bit of time to ramp up. So maybe over half the contract, he's not going to give you much at all on the court. Obviously, off the court, it's a great story. I'm aware, but I don't like the fact that it's the mid-level exception when he's already getting his max money from the Bucks. That rubs me the wrong way.
So, how, since you're the greatest social media manager the Portland Trail Blazers have ever had and will have, how would you
Thank you,
spin
man.
this? How would you,
Oh, I would be. We're drinking Kool-Aid.
what's your propaganda game looking like?
Oh, the propaganda game is strong. We're talking, GIFs nonstop. I mean, we're just bringing back all the clips, and we are leaning into
Would you
nostalgia.
do the Dame time three first or his first over Ryan Anderson? What would the first piece of content be?
It's probably just a compilation video of like his greatest hits, man. Like we're putting a double album out there, right? We're releasing this to the
You're putting
masses.
the Redman album with 40 singles? Damn.
We're doing the Tupac greatest hits. That thing, it was a two double discer back in
Yeah.
'98. Yeah, I mean, I'm totally leaning into it. I think if you're a social media, if you're marketing, if you're tickets, business, beautiful. This is excellent for everyone. Jerseys are gonna go crazy again. Um, it's going to be good business. I think it's good business. Part of me wonders with Adam Silver's, I think, maybe lingering comments about the preference being to stay in Portland, but the arena needs to be, new. Part of me wonders maybe Joe Cronin's like, okay, like we ain't going nowhere. Like we're
Mhm.
gonna bring Dame back, like just letting you know, like this isn't how it's gonna be. It's not gonna be Seattle all over again. Um, or there is a world and way this works. I am not naive to that. I think this also forces Joe Cronin, just like when he drafted Young, it forced him to make a move. It forced him to accept that buyout from DeAndre, whether
Mhm.
he was going to move him or not, because you can take best player available, but best player available means you have to do other things to make it work. And having DeAndre there was not a path to success. You're lucky in the way that you get Dame for a year just to be a coach. There's
Mhm.
no pressure. I would not even tempt fate. He's not playing it. If I'm already coming out and saying it, just like the Pacers said, Halliburton's done for the year. Like you
Mhm.
know that you're not gonna have to worry about tickets for for the Pacers or teasing anything. Like you let that go, and he buys himself a little bit of time to kind of get out of, when you parallel park really tight and it takes a lot of maneuvering to get out. So Joe Cronin's doing right now. He's like, okay, I've got a year. I got to see how maybe Drew can boost that value. Maybe Jeremy can boost that value. They'll
Yeah.
only have 2 years left on their deal after this. Um, I want to go back to Scoot though, because that, aside from the mid-level exception, the first thing that popped in my mind was like, I feel really bad for Scoot Henderson because this is a kid that was drafted in the top three, considered a top prospect for multiple years, gets drafted by Portland when we're in this, you know, go build for the future or win with Dame. Is Dame going to request out? Is he not? Like, what's going to happen? Then Dame requests out, and then it's Scoot. But then he kind of gets
Anthony Simons.
wrangled between Anthony and Delano, and Chauncey, and like he just isn't able to get his feet settled amongst some other, multiple minor injuries. And then they trade Anthony, and you can kind of see the path. Okay, Drew's 35, coming off an injured season. He's not going to need the ball in his hands as much. You saw the path for him to be a long-term, this is our point guard of the future. There is a world, we're talking about committing that $50 million to point guards aged 35, 36, and 37. I don't think this means the end for Scoot Henderson. I think this is more of a Drew Holiday rental if I'm thinking through it logically, because where are you going to find your point guard, right? Sage, like 3 years isn't a long time. Like
Oh,
you're not just going to say Dame and Drew at 38, you guys are our point guards. You need someone in the wings. So it makes sense that they have Scoot Henderson on the roster, but I think there's going to have to be some I think they're going to have to reassure him that, hey, you're still our guy because
yeah.
he's still super young. He's 21 years old.
He
So
can't rent a fucking car yet.
if
Like,
you think about it, he'll be 24 when Damon Drew expire. So
mhm.
that's still a lot of hoop ahead of him, but that's also asking him to be incredibly patient. So I think they kind of need to give him something to
So
keep him.
what, the window in front of Rip City? What would you do with all of the face? Like, would you do faces? What would you do as the Blazers marketer of the Holy Backboard? How would you put it to honor Dame, but also show that Scoot and Shaden and all of these young dudes are important? What would you do with the glass in front of the Rip City sign?
A great question.
Thank you.
It's interesting what they did. It's interesting what they marketed last year, right? We had the glasses giveaway and was like, oh, we're all in on Scoot Shaden and
Hmm.
Donovan. And yet we got a heavy dose of Anthony, Jeremy, and DeAndre.
Hmm.
Um, Anthony and Jeremy were also noticeably absent from that mural that last year. It was calls to the past, 77, 2000, early 90s. But then you also had the hero image of um I believe DeAndre and Scoot lifting up Shaden, or it
Hmm.
was those three
Yeah.
were promised. So DeAndre was the vet that was featured. Um, I think they have so many young guys that I would, try to find a way to give them all some shine because you're gonna have people who are excited for Young. You're gonna have people who still are like, well, Donovan's our recent, our rookie who had a good season. Tumani was second team defense. Denny's got a fan base. Scoot and Shaden, obviously are still doing their thing. Um, Jeremy's still here. Like you can't forget about him. Drew and Dame. Like, so I think you might just have to go back to the throwback where it's like that team photo,
Hmm.
where they've done that in the past, where they've, I think that's one of my last years there, where they just had the guys kind of wrapped around.
Hmm.
Um, because there's a lot of likable players. There's a lot of people that need their shine.
Yeah, like that is the main like propaganda window. Like that's the billboard of whatever the marketing and so like everyone decide that's like the main thing. So they have to be pretty careful with they can't go too throwback with Damien and they can't go, all young boy bucks. But like, yeah, there's so many people with their individual fan bases that it's gonna be like I still like even what if Chris Murray takes that step? What if Ryan Fair takes that step? There's only 48 times 5. There's only that amount of minutes per game, and man, it's gonna be scary. Do you think after all of these dudes of Drew Holiday and Damian Lillard getting signed, do you think we need another point guard for to actually play this season, real backup point guard minutes? Because Scoot
Yes and
can't play
no.
48.
Yes and no, but I would say they're not going to because any agent worth their salt is going to see that this isn't a permanent landing spot for the client because they know that Damien's coming
Coming
back.
back, yeah.
So I don't think they will. I probably wouldn't. Um, you took Caleb Love as an undrafted free agent. You got into a two-way deal. Let him be your third. If you're really needing a third point guard, I think you're worrying about the wrong thing. Like I think the Blazers need to address their shooting, so they need like somebody off the bench who's big, who can defend and shoot. They need another 3-and-D shooter. Maybe it's Rupert. But I think they should need another marksman. Like they need another guy who is just not gonna miss when they're open. A Corver, a Hauser, Ray Allen, Heat type of
Matt
guy.
Ryan.
Yeah.
We just
You
need
just
something.
yeah, but no, I think they'll be fine because they're going to give Shaden more ball handling responsibilities. Denny leads the break
Oh
a
God,
lot.
yeah.
Denny initiates offense a lot.
Yeah,
I
I would say that the two things, like if we were playing NBA 2K, I'm getting a backup point guard for this, and then I'm getting Isaiah Joe, Sam
but
Hauser.
you only have one roster spot now.
Man,
You,
that's
you,
hopefully we would trade somebody on this roster eventually. I don't know. Like, yeah, I think Scoot's gonna have to stay healthy this year. There can't be any weird injuries from Scoot and Shaden this year because we just don't have anybody that can do what those two do.
you mentioned earlier the Scoot Dame relationship. Again, this is social media, but Scoot did post that video that Dame shared. And also, if you notice that video that Dame shared, guess whose lockers are right next to each other?
Is it Damon
Double
Scoot
O
next? Was that?
and O.
Oh, that's cute.
So Dame doesn't strike me as someone who is not self-aware. I think he is very self-aware. I think at this point in his career, the driving force in him returning to Portland was to be with his family.
Mhm.
That's fine. That's okay. That is a
He's built
great
those roots
decision.
there. It
Yeah,
has
that is
to
a
be.
decision to make. He clearly wants to be in Portland.
Does
And
he
I think,
still have the car business?
yeah, still has Damian Lillard Toyota. That, I mean, they are the marketers that are going to go
Oh,
crazy
bro.
on this. Um, so I don't, even though all great players have ego, I don't, my head and heart want to believe that he won't be like a Chris Paul or a Carmelo Anthony, where it's like, you're going to have to drag me off of this court if I'm not starting, right?
Yeah.
Chris Paul is there's a reason he hasn't found a job yet. He's like reportedly wants to start for his final season. Like I get it, but also, bud, you're 40 years old. And it took Carmelo Anthony getting basically kicked out of the league for a
League.
year. Not kicked out, but like not wanted for a year to be like, okay, I guess I'll come to Portland and be a bench guy. But like I think if Scoot proves himself, whether it's, this year and has, wins most improved player or something like that, like I would hope that Dame would be self-aware enough to be like, okay, this is he's got the job, or they, because I don't know what you do or what they would do. What I would do is like, Scoot, you earned it because you can't play them together. Um, so someone's gonna have to take a back seat, and
Oh, it
I
has to be Dame. It has like you can't.
for it to work, I think he absolutely has to take a back seat.
Yeah, he has to.
He has to take that role we wanted CJ and Anthony to be
Mhm.
in for so long. And it kind of has to come first full circle and come back to him. He has to be that lead guard off the bench.
Could
Doesn't
you
mean
imagine him being the stretcher on the team? Like, let's just say he's the R6 man, but there are minutes where it's Scoot, him, Shaden, Tumani, and Donovan. You know how many open shots Dame is going to get wide open because Scoot's going to drive, Donovan's going to set screens, Shaden's going to cut. All of these movers and shakers offensively. Damian Lillard will have never had these open of shots ever in his career because of the youth, the athleticism, the things that Damian Lillard, quite frankly, cannot provide anymore. But these young dudes have it in spades because they don't have. How many playoff series did we hit over and over and over again? Like it was like from 13 to the year we tanked for Shaden, we hit the playoffs, right?
we made the playoffs from 2014 to 2021.
So who was the main usage rate guy for every single game we played? It was Damian Lillard. He's and then the Bucks as well. So he's had a lot of playoff games being put on his body. If he is able to just be the best stretch shooting guard we've ever had, this shit can work. But there's that ego that I am arguably the best player the Blazers have ever had, the best scorer that Blazers ever had. I'm not gonna watch Scoot Henderson run the offense. So the Cronin has to do his best sell job ever. And I guess that his relationship with Scoot, like the O and double O, that relationship, and then Young's ability to play at the next level is what our entire basketball ops and coaching staff, like that's their job right there. Make sure that the Damon Scoot get along, make sure Hansen develops in Rip City remix and plays and develops and puts some damn muscle on. That's what Cronin has to put all of his chips in.
It's so wild. I feel like the Blazers have this 3-year window to put up or shut up. Dame, Drew,
Jeremy.
Jeremy, Denny, Joe Cronin, Chauncey Billups. They have 3 years on their deal. They
Yep.
all have 3 years left. That's wild that amount of input on an organization expire at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's going to be it's going to be interesting.
Yep. Anything else that you want to talk about, or you gonna get Adrian to bed and I'm gonna play Rainbow Six? Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Well, thankfully, Mama Bear took Adrian tonight. My duties were watering our yard. But yeah, it surprised me news. I thought he would definitely go to Boston or
Boston,
Denver
yeah, someplace.
and get a another shot at a championship. Um, but that is not the story. He decided to come back. He's clearly excited to be back. That's great. I think it was obviously the right move to trade him. The assets they've got, and then they were able
This
to
is the
get him
best
back.
team Damian Lillard has ever been on in terms of talent. Maybe the Western Conference, but like we never had a defender like Tumani in that year. We never had.
No, but also like we did win 54 games, so and we did go beat two teams to get to the West. So like
This
I
is one
think
of the best teams he's ever been on.
like for a moment in time, like the thing about the 19 team was that window was
So
minimal,
small, so
so
small.
small, but the fresh air you got from it was the best.
Yeah, I mean, shit, because we got Seth on like a BAE, right?
Yeah, and you brought in Hoodie and Cantor off the buyout market. It was a nice team.
And we
CJ,
we
it was
used part of the MLE on Sauce Castillo and Gary Trent Jr., if I remember right.
yeah, and yes, and we traded Nick Stauskas for Rodney Hood.
Yeah,
Yeah, we traded for Rodney Hood. That's right. And we got Ennis Cantor off the buyout market. We had it was just that team was really,
special.
really good. Now this team has more potential, but they're younger, much younger. And so we'll
Well, and
see.
we have a minimum of 3 years for everybody to prove it. But then, you know, most likely Shaden's getting paid. Tumani's absolutely going to get paid. So hopefully it's going to be much, much longer with our star young guys getting multiple year deals afterwards.
It's I really wish we had anybody but Chauncey as the head
Oh
coach because
yeah, you need to be
there are
delicate with it.
and this isn't even X's and O's. This is like managing relationships. I know he's supposedly buds with everybody, but like he didn't really manage relationships well
With
last year.
Houston, dude. What
He
about Yusuf
played
Nurkic,
favorite.
man? That
He
was
he's
ooh.
going to have conversations with Joe at the deadline about Robert Williams because you have two lottery pick centers. You can't keep a player of Williams' caliber as a third big. You're gonna have to figure out what to do with Jeremy Grant. So like this is why I'm skeptical because Sage, you remember last year when they went on their run, Shaden wasn't starting, right? He was relying heavily on them. It was Ant, Tumani, Denny, Jeremy, and DA. Well, then in Washington, Danny gets hurt and Jeremy gets hurt, and that's when Shaden really broke out. He had that dunk, he had like 30 some odd points, and then he went on a run.
And he was still our most efficient offensive player.
Don't you find it somewhat a coincidence that Chauncey Billups never ever had to make a decision about who to put in that starting lineup again because who got hurt for the rest of the season right after that? Jeremy Grant. He never was forced to make a decision about whether he was going to keep the better player in Shaden Sharp or
Well, I,
the
I
veteran.
think that's the talent evaluation thing as well, because I don't think he thought that Shaden Sharp was better than those other dudes. I don't think he thought that. He has to think that today. He has to think Shaden Sharp is their most offensively gifted player on the team currently because he is. There is no Anthony that you can jump to and say he can do it too. No, if you look at statistics, which I don't know if Chauncey Billups does, I seriously doubt it, but I think that Shaden Sharp was our number one offensive dude. Numbers show it, everything shows it, but Chauncey Billups refused to see it. Now, I obviously wish that he was also not the coach, but when we're trying to find a new owner. Also, I think the new ownership, having Damian Lillard locked in for 3 years, is good for whoever's gonna potentially buy it.
Young's good for business too.
Oh yeah. There's
Yeah,
there's like a billion people that look like me, well, sort of look like me, that are pretty obsessed with another Chinese potential center star. So
I
we
think
we we've made the marketability so much better in the last month and a half than it was
yeah.
prior.
I'll end on this. I think we'll get a good inclination how this new relationship with Damian will go if we see Chauncey handle the current Blazers as he should. If he coddles the veterans or leans on them instead of younger players who need the time or
Mm,
have outworked them in practice, then we're going to have an issue. But if he leans into Scoot and Shaden while also letting Denny and Tumani be the forwards, so like he's like, I don't care how much you're making Jeremy, I don't care how much you're making Drew, I need you to be role players off the bench.
mm,
If he can make that decision, if he can get them to buy in, I will start to have some confidence that whatever the cards may be next fall, next fall in 2026, when Damien's ready to play, that there will be a good foundation of tough conversations had
mm.
that this could work because that it's going to be awkward. There's going to be tough conversations. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
All right, I think that's a great way to wrap up. I gotta pee. I will talk to everybody soon. If you, there will be clips of this episode out throughout the week. Um, check out our Insta, check out my TikTok, and I will talk